Hey cycling community, this is Steve Grusis, the Cycling Greek. The reason you haven't seen me on the video lately is because this last weekend I put on a bike race. And not just a bike race, but a stage race. A lot more involved, a lot more logistics, a lot more worrying about the results because you're not only dealing with placings, but you're dealing with timing now. From the responses I got from the riders at the race and through a survey that I'll be talking about in a little bit, I am confident that this race can grow for next year. But to be able to grow effectively, there are some changes that I'm going to have to make. One is learn from the mistakes that I made this last weekend. Some of the mistakes are administrative and didn't affect the riders, and some others kind of affected the riders only in a little bit. But this one mistake affected this rider pretty big, and so what I did is I compensated him, and he seemed content with that. The second is a survey that I sent out. I sent it out the day after the race, and it had 4 questions in which subsequently one of the questions was a bad question, so I'm throwing that out. There were 130 racers, and I received 36 responses. So that's a little over 30%, so I'm pretty happy with that. So the first question was, should we keep the same 2-day, 3-race format or go to a 3-day, 4-race format? This was clear. 30 of the riders wanted to stay with the 2-day format, and 10 wanted to go with the 3-day format. Now, that's a total of 40 votes right there, but some of the people didn't care which way, so I'm just marked down both. The second question had to deal with the time trial. The time trial course that I used, I'm not going to be able to use again. So I asked them if they want me to find a new flat rolling time trial or to go with this 2-kilometer hill climb time trial that goes to the sky. I was surprised on that one. That one was dead even at 16 votes each. Because the classic time trial is associated with the quality stage race, I'm sticking with a flatter rolling time trial, and we'll be talking about what's available to me in a little bit with that. The last question dealt with, what are the comments you have about the race? And I received a lot of constructive feedback. Nothing I can argue with. The 2 items mentioned most often are podiums and neutral water. With podiums, even though I had podiums out there, I didn't have them out there every stage. And basically, I just set them out there and then I didn't pay attention to them. For next year, I'm going to have to allocate people to that and more attention toward that. With respect to the neutral water, most of the categories had short enough distances at the road race relative to the cooler temperatures where they can get away with 2 water bottles. But the Pro 1-2s that went 88 miles and a couple of the other upper league categories would have benefited from neutral water. Of course, to be able to have neutral water out there, that means I'm going to have volunteers. So basically, I'm burning people just to stand there to hand out water bottles. But this is an important function that you got to have, but that the people are asking for. The other change that's coming with that is with volunteers. I've reached out to our local recreational cycling club, the Fresno Cycling Club of Central California. They have about 700 to 1,000 members in that organization. And already I'm starting to get some volunteers for next year. And I hope that keeps up so I can get a lot more volunteers so we can have the stage race that people will want. The fourth change I'm going to make is in terms of the stages themselves. So with this last edition, I had the road race on Saturday, and then the time trial Sunday morning, and the circuit race Sunday afternoon. That made for a long day for a lot of the categories waiting for their results, because they still have hours to drive to get home. So the next morning they can get up and go to work. I'm switching that around. I'm going to have the time trial and a circuit race on Saturday and a road race on Sunday. So that's going to alleviate the problem for most, if not all, the people. The last item is the time trial. There are 2 time trials that I'm looking at. The first one that I prefer is going to finish right near the entrance of the circuit race, and it's going to be a rolling time trial. It's still going to benefit greatly from a time trial bike. If USAC is okay with that course and the county is okay with that course, then I'll still be able to have a sequential type of setup where I'll have the time trial in the morning and the circuit race in the afternoon. If I can't get that course, then there is this other time trial course that I used years ago, but it's 45 minutes on the other side of town. So in that case, I'm going to have a concurrent setup where both events are going on at the same time and just switching categories throughout the day. And that means I'm going to have another set of officials. Since I'm using all the local officials for the stage race as it is now, that means any new officials that I get, I'm going to have to come from 200 plus miles away. With the cost of official being not only their time, but the distance they travel, that's going to be pretty big. I estimate that's going to be close to $3,000. That's going to be 30 registrations at the discounted price to a race that is taking place in a low racing demographic area. So that's pretty big. Not only that, I'm going to have to spend money to get a second registrar to record those time trial times on our spreadsheet, and then she'll get that spreadsheet over to our other registrar, to the main registrar that's over in the circuit race. All it takes is money. Money and people. I hope you enjoyed this video and got just an inkling of what it takes to put on a race like this. Remember, put your comments below, like this video, and subscribe. The Cycling Greek.